Hey, soccer fans, welcome back to the Feed the Fire podcast. I am your host, Nick, and we are talking all things Major League Soccer and the Chicago Fire in today's episode. It is Monday, June 2nd, and the Chicago Fire are coming off a great win down in Orlando City. But before we get to all the action in that match, first of all, I want to remind everyone to go out. Get your bottle of Skira Icelandic Spring Water at your local 7-Eleven. Skira has been a supporter of the podcast since episode 1. In fact, they were even supporting the show in pre-development. So as a thank you to them for supporting the show, for letting me do what I do, please go out, get a bottle of Skira Icelandic Spring Water at your local 7-Eleven. And also, please make sure you rate, review, like, subscribe, share the show, grow the conversation, interact with me on social media at Glasshouse Soccer, or email me glasshouseSoccer@gmail.com. Of course, you can always add your comments in the YouTube link, on Spotify, or across the social media platforms. Also, there were some big games that occurred in the world of American soccer over the last couple of days, not just the MLS results. We had the CONCACAF Champions Cup, where Cruz Azul was hosting the Vancouver Whitecaps for a berth in the upcoming Club World Cup. The Champions Cup, the title of best club in North America. Vancouver on a magical run, beating multiple Liga MX teams along with Inter Miami, coming up against the powerhouse of Cruz Azul. And for whatever reason, Vancouver just didn't have it. Didn't have anything in this match. And it was already 3-0 at halftime. Cruz Azul tacked on 2 more by the end of the match to defeat the MLS squad from Canada. 5-0. So congrats to Cruz Azul as CONCACAF Champions Cup victors. Congrats to Vancouver Whitecaps on a great run, showcasing some amazing talent throughout the course of this run, not just in the tournament, but also still one of the best teams in MLS right now. And of course, that earned call-ups for Sebastian Berhalter to the Gold Cup roster. I don't recall if Brian White was on there. I'll have to go back and double check that. I don't know if he's still maybe nursing a little bit of a knock, whatever the case may be there. Hopefully, we get to see him in some red, white, and blue action in the near future. The other big game that occurred was a playoff between LAFC and, why can't I remember the team? Where was it? I'm looking at the article and it doesn't even have Club America. That's where I should have remembered that. Club America. LAFC defeats Club America to earn a playoff berth. Well, it was a playoff game to earn a berth in the Club World Cup. Now, the reason was this was a unique situation. This wasn't part of the original plan. Leon from Liga MX was supposed to take this spot in the Club World Cup, but because their ownership group also owns another team that is already playing in the Club World Cup, and according to FIFA rules, an ownership group can't have more than one team in one tournament like this, they removed Leon and allowed the next two, I guess, not seeded teams, but the next 2 teams with the opportunities, teams that maybe lost in an automatic qualifying bid or were next in the ranking system, LAFC and Club America. And it was LAFC with the 2-1 victory. People calling this the $10 million game because the teams that participate get $9.55 million in revenue from the Club World Cup. So big cash in from LAFC and MLS. But then you also saw the protest going on with Seattle. The Sounders players were wearing T-shirts during warm-ups this weekend that said Club World Cup cash grab. And they were protesting the fact that the players actually get such a small percentage of this prize money that it goes to the club, the owners, the league, rather than the players. Also, it was another good talking point to say MLS needs to expand rosters, loosen the roster rules, increase the salary cap, or do away with it so that clubs can be competing in multiple tournaments, multiple competitions, or pay the players more because they are playing more games, more minutes, more matches, more travel, more everything throughout the year on top of any international duties that they're being called upon. So that was what Seattle's protest was. For what it's worth, this was bargained for in the latest MLS Players Association collective bargaining agreement. Thanks to Tim Hotza of Men in Red 97 for tweeting out some information on that, where they actually bargained for how prize money for tournaments was going to be shared. So definitely something that will be revisited in the future as we now have expanded Club World Cups and we now have MLS teams participating in more continental tournaments, as well as more international tournaments and more prize money coming in. it's going to be something the players are going to want to see an increased percentage of in any future bargaining agreement. So just, another point of contention in the future that we're going to have to hear about. All right, let's turn our attention now to the Chicago Fire's match against Orlando City. This was a 3-1 victory for the Chicago Fire. Couldn't keep the clean sheet. They just can't keep a clean sheet this year, can they? But take the win, back in the win column, road win. I will kind of hedge a little bit. This was a good performance by the Chicago Fire, but Orlando was without one of their starters, was without their head coach as well, both of them on red card suspensions. Orlando came off a midweek game, a come-from-behind loss, I guess, to Atlanta United. I think someone said they played 9 games or 10 games in the month of May, but that doesn't take away the fact that they're playing at home with potentially a more talented squad, but we'll leave the pundits to that one. I'm going to, of course, support my hometown team, the Fire, especially the way they've been playing. And the fact that the Fire took 4 points in 2 games against Orlando City, a home draw and an away victory, the Fire still had to execute. We saw Orlando get a goal. We saw them create opportunities. We saw Brady come up with saves. We saw the defense have to make plays. We saw the offense have to score goals. They didn't create a lot of opportunities, and we'll get to the stats in a little bit, but the Fire executed in a game that they had to, and they come away with 3 goals and 3 points and another road victory. Here were some of my general thoughts on this match. And one of them I already said. The Fire took 4 points from Orlando City. Where's Orlando City in the standings right now? Great question. After all these weekend matches that saw a lot of different results here, Orlando has now dropped down to 7th on 27 points. The Fire are in 11th on 22 points, and the Fire actually have 2 games in hand. They did not play a weeknight game where the rest of the league did, and I think they also got out of a match due to U.S. Open Cup duty. So the Fire have 2 games in hand. Say they take 2 to 4 points out of those matches, that's 24 to 26. That would put them in the play-in game as it stands right now. But if they win one and draw one, that's another 4 points. They're at 26 points. They win both of those games, they're at 28 points, and they have leapfrogged into the 6th spot there, potentially into the 5th spot, depending on tiebreakers with Columbus. So the fact that the Fire took 4 points from a team that is, a few points ahead of them is likely going to be about where they are in the standings at the end of the season. That is massive. And the Fire are going to need to continue to do that against the likes of Columbus, Red Bulls, New York City, Charlotte, New England, make sure that they are at least drawing and then allowing themselves the opportunity to beat other teams like a DC, Atlanta, Toronto, Montreal, stuff like that. So this is an excellent result for the Fire in terms of standing. What else did I notice in this game? Orlando City really dominated possession, but the Fire controlled the match. The Fire actually were able to dictate the pace of this game without the ball. It was their pressing. It was their defensive positioning. It was Brady slowing things down, perhaps after making a save and falling forward, especially late in the game, killing some momentum. It was Bamba being an outlet, and there was a lot of discussion on social media that I was having with a few fans and John over at Men in Red 97 as well about should Haile Selassie be starting for Bamba. Go back and check out the Men in Red podcast if you want a statistical breakdown of Jonathan Bamba's season, where he's kind of starting to tail off a little bit. And so they thought Haile Selassie should get the start. I said, hey, you know what? That's not a terrible option. Let's save Bamba's legs a little bit, and that way he can be kind of that late game outlet for them. But it was, in fact, the opposite. Bamba ended up, I think, playing the full 90, and we'll look at the lineup in a minute here. But he was an excellent outlet. And even if he wasn't drawing fouls and even if he wasn't creating goal-scoring opportunities, he was still able to be that outlet, relieve the pressure, and force Orlando City to then rebuild their possession from the back while Kuipers is pressing, while Zinkernagel is pressing, while the midfield is moving into a central part of the field and not hanging in some sort of low block or just scrambling to prevent a shot. So him being an outlet really helped to dictate the pace. And the Fire may only have had the ball for 2 passes, 30 seconds, defender to midfielder out wide to Bamba, dribbles it, maybe gives up a goal kick, loses the ball, whatever the case may be. But even that, it was relieving the pressure and allowing the Fire to control the game without the ball. Orlando City looked very slow and reactive most of the match, and even the Orlando City accounts that I was interacting with and some of the guys in my MLS chat agreed with that. But hey, like we said, they played a game on Wednesday. They played 9 or 10 games in the month. It has been a very long May for Orlando City, but the Fire still had to take advantage, and they did. Cups was another standout performer tonight, not just team of the match day, Hugo Kuipers with 2 goals, and team of the match day bench, Zinkernagel, him with his goal contributions in this match. Let's see, what did Zinkernagel end up with here? Did he have a goal and an assist? Is that what it was? I forget exactly. But again, 2 guys on team of the match day for the Fire. But Cups had a shaky start, bad tackle, yellow card. Didn't look like he was up for it, but shortly after that recovered and was able to put in a solid shift. And what I think is special, not just about Cups as an individual, but the fact that the Chicago Fire under Greg Berhalter this year have been able to identify him as a talent, as an MLS quality talent, not just, a spot starter or a depth piece or whatever the case, a starting talent. And they integrated him from CF2 this year. We have seen a lot of great talent be neglected by the first team, whether that's because coaching staff didn't understand or have a connection with the second team, whether they were just kind of a lame duck coaching staff, like I would call Frank Klopas every time he got called in as an interim. Ezra Henriksen probably didn't know too much about the academy and how to bring guys up. But now we see we had the game. 6 academy players started at one point. We see Gutman making an impact. We have the midfield of Pineda, Orahel, and Gutierrez now that they're getting minutes and responsibility together as a midfield trio, probably have been the best midfield trio that we have seen this season. Orahel, after a terrible opening match against Columbus, has really grown and developed and shown that he can hack it at the MLS level. This is talent identification, yes, but it is also talent development and integration of the club teams at all levels of the organization. And it's fantastic. And to me, that is what is most special about Cups. That, yes, he's an amazing physical talent, especially just turning 17 within the last week or two. He's an amazing technical talent, but he is, to me, the epitome of a developmental player being identified at a young age and being brought along at the right pace and integrated to the first team at the right time. The other thing that I see as a big picture win after this game is after the Chicago Fire lost 7-2 in Nashville, and after they lose a bad 3-1 game in New York City, they bounce back with 2 convincing wins at Charlotte and at Orlando City. So after 2 bad losses, the Fire have outscored opponents 7-2. So that's pretty good culture that has been built here within the Fire. And we've often talked about recent Fire teams having poor mentality, coaches losing the locker room, just going through the motions. Let's get to the end of the season. I think last year or the year before, they were the earliest ever a team has been eliminated from the playoffs since whatever expansion of the playoff field, whatever it was. So they are still mentally strong as well as technically proficient here. And the other thought that I had that I shared on social media was, Zinkernagel should be a lock for newcomer of the year at this point. Kuipers definitely making a case to be in the Golden Boot, to be a Golden Boot finalist, if not win the whole thing. So those are some of my overall impressions of the match. Let's break down the stats here, and then we'll hear from our special guest, John Donovan. So the scoring in this match, all goals were scored in the first half, and the Fire rushed out to a 3-0 lead. Zinkernagel gets one in the 5th minute, just takes a rip of a shot, tries to maybe test Gallese, probably one I'm sure it was one he didn't think was going in. It ended up curling back right at Gallese, but Gallese looked to have maybe misread it a bit. And we saw Bamba's goal against Charlotte, where Colina was kind of cheating. He thought he was going to shoot far post, but Bamba ended up shooting near post or to centrally, and it curled near post. That's almost what it looked like here, that it kind of curved a little bit at the end, and Gallese couldn't adjust his hands. It went right through his hands into the net. And so the Fire take a 1-0 lead in the 5th minute. So if you're one of those players or coaches who says, test the opposing keeper early, here's the proof of it. You never know what's going to happen. And I think that kind of put Orlando in a difficult spot. I know it put Orlando in a difficult spot early. You're down at home 1-0 in the 5th minute. And the Fire were playing with a lot of confidence at that point. They didn't have to rush things. They could pick their moments. And Orlando City did have to, kind of want to get one back. But then the Fire get 2 goals within a minute from Hugo Kuipers in the 31st and 32nd minute. Now, Freeman for Orlando, the outside back, who's getting a lot of talk about international move potentially, does pull one back for Orlando in the 40th minute, but they are unable to put together any other offense, or at least put together any other goals. They had a lot of shots this match, and at 3-1, it stands. So the Fire starting lineup ended up with Chris Brady in goal, Gutman, Elliott, Cups, and Dean across your back line, Pineda, Kwame, and Orahel in your middle, Bamba, Kuipers, and Ziegernagel across the top. We did see Haile Selassie, Tom Barlow, Omar Gonzalez, Kellen Acosta, Leo Barroso all get subbed in for the Fire. We had Amari Glasgow, Sam Williams, and Jay Davila as unused subs on the bench. As far as the stats go in this match, this is one of those games where all that matters is the final score. The Fire had about 46% possession, 10 shots, 4 on goal, no block shots, 441 total passes at about 83-84% passing accuracy, 1 corner, 2 total crosses, no offside, only a 0.9 xG. Meanwhile, looking at Orlando City, they had 28 shots, 5 on goal with a 3 xG. So they underperformed their xG by 2, and the Fire overperformed their xG by 2. Chris Brady was credited with 4 saves, the Fire defense with 16 clearances, as opposed to Orlando's 1. The Fire committed 13 fouls, picked up 2 yellow cards. Then again, so did Orlando City. And no red cards this match, so we'll take that as a win. And if you look at the 5-minute intervals in the possession of this match, it favored Orlando City. And the match momentum chart, I think, is even more reflective of how Orlando City had control of the game throughout the vast majority of it. The Fire surprisingly controlled the first 10 minutes or so, and then had their 5 to 10 minute spurts, every 20-ish or 10 minutes-ish or so throughout the game. But the fact that they were able to withstand the late pressure from Orlando City at the end of each half, especially the last 15 or so minutes plus stoppage time of the second half, really showed how well the Fire come together, and they've got a much better mentality than they have had in years past. So this is a fantastic result for the Chicago Fire, getting one over on a good Orlando City team, catching them at the right time, but more importantly, executing the way they need to. And now with that, let's take a listen to hear what our special guest, John Donovan, has to say about this match, about the team's performance and what he's liking. And again, John Donovan's segment brought to you by Skira, Icelandic spring water, available at your local 7-Eleven. John, take it away.
Nick, I've been dreaming about games like this to do a small podcast on. The Chicago Fire played a game against Orlando in Orlando Saturday night. That was a game that I believe the team made a big turn. I mean, literally, I haven't seen the Fire play with such conviction and depth and courage as, say, Bambia played at the end of the game. When he did that sprint, about 95 minutes into the game, and they needed to get the ball out of their area, and there was nobody out there, and Bambia took off running. I was so impressed. I mean, at the end of the game, he just flopped down and was dead. I mean, there was a few players out there that you just got to really shake your head. Dean being one, I thought Dean had just, he's jumped up into a real reliable player. He can handle these hotshot wingers. He doesn't get sucked in. I really think he's a quality player now. He's gotten a lot better from last year. Nick, I can't talk enough about what's happening to the Fire. Berhalter he keeps bringing this team back. You could almost feel his drive and personality driving this team. or Real. I mean, he played, I think, 80 some minutes and did a spectacular job. And even, I mean, the game went, the Fire scored three early goals or in the 10 to 20 minute area. And they were beautiful goals. This Kuipers is just, as I said last week, what a striker. He hits all of the avenues of what you want with a striker. He's all over the field, but more importantly, he's there when the crosses come. His second goal was just something of beauty. I think there was a cross and he got it with his right foot and he just stuck it right in the right spot. The forward line for the Fire is very good. I think that the midfield is still developing. I'm pleased that Pineda was able to come back. The Gutierrez thing, probably, I was not for using that other DP on this year's, but we are in the middle of a break in Europe, and it is the good time to be signing players. So if they were going to be signing a new player, I'll bet you Gutierrez, who has lost 2 games for the team this year, will be, there was news about him maybe going to Milan. So congratulations. That's what everybody wants, but he's not thinking too well when he's on the floor. He's got really good skills, but again, it takes smart, it takes skills, and it takes passion to win a soccer game. And somehow or another, he is losing that focus. So, I think the exciting part of the games, you've heard me talk about local guys, but what can we say about this guy, Cups? I mean, it is something to use any 16-year-old in a game, but to use him in such an important, sensitive spot. And he got a yellow card. I was scared to death that he would be a tendency to go into somebody later in the game. He played through that yellow card and finished out the game. He is playing next to a very talented, experienced fullback in Elliott. That was a good move in signing him. You look back at the summer with Berhalter coming in a bit late, but he did sign Bombia. He signed Elliott. I think, he did sign Zenkernagel. Sorry, I misspelled those names a little bit or mispronounced them. But the game was really wonderful for the team. I think it's wonderful for the city to look at it. But you just got to look at the direction of the league. They're bringing in these superstar young guys that we're getting the first chance to look at. And I mean, Cups, great example of the academy producing players. I think I said my grandson plays for the Chicago Fire, and I get a chance to see the development of the academy, and it is awesome. I mean, they really highlight soccer. It wouldn't be for my grandson, I don't believe, but you literally drop out of school and your school is the Fire. They practice 2 times a day. They're developing pros is what they're doing. And it's, for some, it's wonderful. For those that don't make it, it's a heart attack. But you get to play in the United States. In the old days, a guy that thought he had some ability had to go overseas to play, and it was very difficult to find a spot overseas. For example, Brian McBride and Landon Donovan started their careers in Germany, and both of them couldn't make the team, mainly because Germans didn't like Americans playing for their Bayern Munich or even the lower level teams. But when they went back, McBride played for Fulham and Donovan played for Everton. They were lights out, the best on the floor. So, American players are good. They just have to have the opportunity. And Berhalter, certainly, if you're a member of that first team, even if you're on the bench, you're expected to play. I thought Berhalter did a marvelous job of substituting. Even though Acosta looks like he's definitely lost a step, he does give a lot of experience out there. And I thought Selassie was good. He brought in a lot of speed, which we needed at the time. But, the Fire, they obviously disappointed all of us on that 7-2 loss. But I think that they'll make the playoffs this year. How deep they go, they have 3 more months of playing before they hit that level. So there's a lot of learning, a lot of experience. It'll be interesting to see when Tehran gets better, which way Berhalter goes. If Cups is really developing, he had a good game last night, very solid, had a yellow card and played through it. So that's about it. We'll look forward to next week. I believe it's DC, in DC, so it should be a lot of fun. I don't think that big forward is playing for DC. I think he's injured. Thought I saw him on Bertaki or something. I think I saw him on the injured list this week. But you never want to see an injured player. Take care, Nick. Hey, Mike. Bye, guys.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you chiming in with all your thoughts on the Chicago Fire. I especially like what you were saying about Berhalter subs. It was something that he's been criticized for in the past, especially in the losses. But what really helped him out was when the Fire took that early lead, because he was able to kind of weather some tired legs. And we saw it across social media as people were watching the game and chiming in that, hey, you need to make some subs. There's some tired legs. We need to get new people in there. But because they had a 2-goal lead, that allowed him a little bit of time to assess Orlando City's moves. And we saw Orlando City made the first sub with Enrique coming in for Angulo at halftime, and then Santos coming in for Schlegel in the 54th minute. Schlegel picking up a yellow card prior to that. And that seemed to be a very reactive move. We also saw Robert Janssen with a yellow card right before halftime. So Berhalter was able to see those initial subs by Orlando and counter it in the 76th minute by replacing two of his midfielders by replacing a player on each line. He brought in Barroso for Gutman, brought in Acosta for Kwame, and brought in Barlow for Kuipers to keep the pressure on Orlando, and again, to have those fresh legs in there. And when Orlando City brought in Dagerdan Thorhalsen in the 77th, in the 84th, then he brings in Omar Gonzalez for Sergio Ordahel and Marin Haile Selassie for Philip Zinkernagel. So bringing in fresh legs, but also a more defensive presence, a bigger defensive presence in Omar Gonzalez. So he was able, because of the lead, to react appropriately to Orlando City, not being reactive, but reading it and reacting the way he should be. One other quick thing, since we were talking about Kuipers and his 2 goals, he is now tied for 3rd in the Golden Boot race. Ty Brebo with Philly still leads with 13. Sam Surridge for Nashville has 11. And then there's a 5-way tie for 3rd. Brian White, Leo Messi, Choupo-Moting, Kuipers, and Kevin Danke all on 10 goals each. But it's Messi with 10 goals and 6 assists, who I think has the most combined goal contributions in the league thus far. I think Anders Dreyer for San Diego, don't want to say San Jose. San Diego has total of 14. I think he's got 8 goals and 6 assists. Zinkernagel's got 6 goals, 6 assists. So there's definitely going to be some competition between Zinkernagel and Dreyer for who is the newcomer of the year, but I think those guys are probably the front runners. We also need to recognize Dejan Joveljic with his new team, Kansas City, and Chicho Arango with his new team, San Jose, both on 9 goals each, and then a number of players on 8 and 7 and 6 goals. With that, quick recap episode today. Let you guys get back to your week and enjoy all that you have in store. I forgot to leave you with a semi-soccer story that happened this weekend. As you all know, my sons have taken the spring off from soccer, and they're trying t-ball and baseball. And so my 9-year-old son, my son Teddy, who, by the way, just appeared in one of my card opening videos, so make sure you go find that on YouTube. He was playing second base. It's the bottom of the 3rd inning. He's tired. It's a nice sunny day. He doesn't want to be standing around hanging out on a baseball field and just, watching kids get walked or, hit balls the other way, whatever it is. So he's fiddling with his glove, doesn't have it on. And of course, the moment he takes it off to fiddle with it is when a kid drills a ground ball right toward him. And he realizes, I can't get my glove on and field this, and I can't field it with my bare hands. So what does he do? He sees out of the corner of his eye his buddy who's playing shortstop is running over to cover second. So as this ground ball comes bouncing across the dirt to my son across the infield, he just gives it a little kick, kicks it over to the shortstop. Perfect little soccer pass. kicks the ground ball over. Shortstop grabs it, tags the bag for the force out at second, almost turns the double play at first base. And everyone just kind of looked around. And at first, my son's coach and me too, I'm like, Teddy, why isn't your glove on? What are you doing out there? And then everyone kind of paused and went, that was an amazing play. We've never seen anyone do that in youth baseball in all the years we've been involved with it. So it was, a little funny, a little frustrating. And then at the end of it, at the end of the game, even though they lost, the coach gave Teddy the game ball and said, "You were the MVP today for your stellar defensive play. And by the way, you've been hit by a pitch in every single game and have gotten on base every single game as a result of it. So you're player of the day, Teddy." There you go. So proud moment for the family there as my son incorporates a little of his soccer skills on the baseball diamond. So I'll leave you with that fun story. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. We'll try and get a preview episode out for the Net Fire's next match as we prepare to see if we can string together another win streak. Again, like, subscribe, share, rate, review, do all those things. Thank you to John Donovan and Skira Icelandic Spring Water. Let's go Fire.